before. Hello, welcome everyone. We're going to just give it another half minute or so to let some more people log on before we get started. Glad everyone is able to join us. If you have a minute, you're welcome to use that chat feature over there to say hi, tell us where it is that you're coming from, because we have Native entrepreneurs from all over the country joining us from the looks of the registration. Okay. All right. Looks like we have a pretty good amount of people here, and we'll let the other ones. Hi, Darcy. Oh, Hoopa Valley. I love it up in your area of the California. It's such a beautiful area. We haven't been up to Hoopa, I think, in a couple of years now. It's amazing how time flies. But we definitely look forward to getting back up there. So um, it's nice to have you with us, Darcy. All right. Well, I'm Lynn Wilson. I am with the IDRS Acorn Project, and I'm really glad all of you are able to join us today because I think this is a topic that is really needed. Um, and I'm really glad that we finally, actually get to do this. I see. Hi, Melody. Oh, sorry. I see all of my friends coming through saying hello. So, anyway, for those of you who may not be familiar with our program, I know many of you are because I'm recognizing the names coming through. We are a Native Small Business Development Program. And what we do is provide training and technical assistance to Native entrepreneurs who want to either start or grow their business. And I want to say a very special thank you to our funders, because without our funding from USDA Rural Development in both California and Nevada, as well as the Governor's Office of Economic Development there in California, we wouldn't be able to have programs like this. So we're very, very thankful to those funders. We also want to thank our marketing partners. In particular, one that is coming to top of mind is the Nez Perce Tribe and Stacia Morphine, who is in charge of the small business development program in that area. And she's always so good at making sure to share our training information with the entrepreneurs there in her area of Idaho. So thank you so much, Stacia, for that. I do want everyone to know that even though our primary focus is serving Native entrepreneurs, our trainings are open to absolutely anyone. So it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter what your Native status is. We want to make sure that we're providing information and letting people know that they are welcome. So if you happen to see, something of interest come across, some training that we're doing, and you have a friend or a family member who is perhaps non-native, please go ahead and share that information with them because they are totally welcome. Now, if you are a Native entrepreneur and you are living in California or Nevada and could use some personal business planning assistance, or perhaps there's a challenge you're facing in your business and, like maybe it's a marketing challenge or something like that, that you want some help with, please reach out to us because we'd love to be able to help you. And you can learn more about our organization by visiting nativebiz.org. And if you are interested in some personal one-on-one business counseling, I actually dropped it over into the chat, the direct link to our technical assistance page, and you can click there and fill out a form to request some business counseling. That form will come to me, and then I will reach out to you and set up a time for us to talk. Could you go ahead and switch it to the next slide, Vanessa? So Vanessa Gonzalez is our presenter today, talking about small business taxes, which is something that can be quite scary for a lot of us, I know. But Vanessa is actually my tax person. And so I'm real thankful that she's here today because she always makes that time of year just so much easier for me and my husband. And so she helps kind of take some of that fear out of us doing our taxes, at the end of the year for our small businesses. Vanessa, do you mind going ahead and just talking a little bit about yourself so the audience can get to know you a little better?
Of course. Hi, everyone. So thankful to be here. I appreciate Lynn asking me and trusting me in doing this little webinar for everyone. I am Vanessa Gonzalez Grimmett. I'm a member of the Cherokee Nation of Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and I've been preparing income taxes for 9 years. I've also been a business owner for 5 years, so it was much easier for me to kind of incorporate a business in my life. Having a little bit of tax knowledge in my belt. I see a very big variety of complex tax returns that are just personal tax returns. And my favorite is I probably talking about the ins and outs of business deductions that folks may not always know that you can maximize on. So maximizing business deductions is our title today, and we will go over the agenda about what we're going to talk about today. Again, thank y'all all for joining, and I just hope that you get some good information from the webinar today.
Yeah, and throughout the presentation, as Vanessa is, giving us the information, if you have a question, I would encourage you to put it over into the chat. There is the question and answer area, of course, but it's a little bit easier for me on my end if everyone would just use the chat box. I'll monitor it. And if someone has a question, type it in there and I will stop Vanessa and we'll address your question as we go through the presentation.
Perfect. All right, so going over our agenda today, we're going to talk about benefits of filing business taxes, understanding those business deductions, best practices for keeping those records, and then also the big thing that we may not kind of worry about as a business owner is the tax laws that affect us as far as online sellers. So some of the benefits of filing business taxes, it's going to build your business's financial history. It's also going to help you qualify for deductions that lower your tax liability. Sometimes when we talk about business taxes, we automatically think LLC, separate entity. That's not always the situation. Talking about opens the door for funding opportunities. Sometimes you're going to need that startup help to get your business rolling, and that's not a bad thing at all. Self-employment income, it counts towards earned income credit eligibility. So those of you that have dependents that are in your care, it may help you as far as filing taxes to get those credits that are out there for you. And then it also helps protect your personal finances. The IRS, I'll say that word one time, wants everything reported, and we can maximize on those credits that are out there in this way of filing your business taxes. I'm going to go back one slide just to make sure all of my I just wanted to touch base back one slide. Filing your business taxes separately helps you keep your personal and business finances organized, and it can also prevent problems if you're ever audited, and it ensures your personal income is reported correctly. So we're going to dig into the Schedule C. The Schedule C is part of a 1040, and then your 1040 is just going to be your tax return record. It's just basically your it's your tax return, and the 1040 is called that. And there's several schedules that can be attached to your 1040 and your tax return, but we're just going to touch base on the Schedule C today. So business deductions, What are business deductions? They are ordinary and necessary expenses related to running your business, ordinary, common, and accepted in your field. They're necessary, helpful, and appropriate for your workload. And they're going to lower your taxable income by subtracting those eligible deductions from your gross earnings on your business. So we do have a home office deduction. I know a lot of us use our home and we work from home for our small business, our side hustle. We hear that. We also kind of refer to it as a gig, a side gig. So the home office deduction, it is exclusive and regular use that is required to be able to tap into this deduction. It's part of the Schedule C. However, it's a separate worksheet that we will have to go, that your tax pro would go into to get your correct home office deduction. Simplified method of that is it's a $5 per square foot up to 300 square foot of your home. There's the actual expense method. There's a percentage of your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, your insurance, also your property taxes that your home sits on. So make sure you keep a floor plan and photos to support those claims that you might have for your home office deduction.
So Vanessa, do you mind if I interrupt and just ask a question here because I am an artisan?
Yes.
And so I do use my home to make jewelry and, the different products that I sell online. Um, so like the area in my home that I'm using for that, you're saying that is a deduction that I can take.
Yes, it's got to be exclusive and regular use. That is the biggest thing that we are looking forward to have is exclusive use. It's regular use. So it's therefore that is your office to where you are doing your artisan work.
Now, if it is, let's say, because I know I have a lot of friends who have, in fact, I have one, I just don't ever use it, a shed, a
Mhm.
garage, or something of that nature. Does that also count under the home office deduction?
It wouldn't be your home office deduction because it has to be part of your home that you reside in. So it's going to be a supply expense more so than the home deduction.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's also the business use of your vehicle. So we have what we call the standard mileage for tax year 2024. It was 67 cents a mile or your actual expenses. So when it comes to talking about your actual expenses, it's pertaining to your gas, your maintenance, your insurance, any depreciation that you have getting into that. You use one or the other. You're going to use the one more advantageous to you. So the one with the highest benefit to you. And a lot of times that's the mileage if you do travel a lot to take deliveries, set up shop, if you are an artisan for one to sell your items that you make. So definitely keep your logs, your detailed logs with your dates, your miles, and the business purpose of that. We aren't allowed to do commuting miles. So if we are going to leave our home and drive to what we call maybe our office space, that's going to be a commute. However, once you get to that office space, anything that you are doing going from there, that's going to be your business miles. So we just want to make sure and keep that log detailed as accurate as possible on that. And when it comes to logs, what we're talking about notebook paper. It doesn't have to be pretty and detailed. Don't have to do anything as far as software. Note papers and what your track record is going to be what is the most important part of keeping those records.
Vanessa, we do have a few questions that have come in. Not
All right.
surprised, right? So one question is, so like on the mileage, that could even be like, let's say I'm traveling to an art show or to a powwow to set up as a vendor and sell. That's mileage that can be deducted, okay?
Yes, because
Um,
not your, let me just branch out on that just a tad bit, because you can use that because it's not your regularly stationed spot. You are going to events, so absolutely you can.
Okay. And then Jennifer also had a question, and she asked, does the standard mileage change due to cost of living? She lives in Alaska. Now, the mileage rate is based on GSA, right?
So the business mileage rate, it can fluctuate with inflation, just like all the other tax changes
Okay.
that can happen. Yes. It hasn't been uniform the same for years. I think for the past 2 or 3, it kind of went up a little bit. And then
So is that standard across the whole United States? Like, is there a standard mileage rate for the whole US?
it would be the standard mileage rate for the whole US. Yes. I think maybe possibly what they may be thinking that is per diem, because that is different in each state.
Okay, yes. But I know like like for my job when I travel, we go by the what's called the GSA rate. I think it's 72 cents a mile
So that
now.
would,
Is that the same that you're using for?
no, business mile for the Schedule C is going to be IRS.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep. Yep. It would,
Um,
they are
and
just
then
paying based on that. Yes.
Lydia actually had a question that pertained the previous slide. So if you use like your home space for other work and not just that business, is there a way that you can adjust that to still
They
get part of a deduction?
They want it as exclusive as possible. So I tell a lot of my clients, if you're doing 85% of your Schedule C business in that room, okay, take that deduction. What they want as far as exclusive and regular use is not double dipping. Some people may be using the home office deduction and then maybe doing their other job that they're paid by W-2 in that same space. So they just don't want you double dipping on that. So as exclusive as possible.
Okay. Um, Arla has a question. She says, I will have an artist in residence program, which is an hour away. I need to attend daily for 8 weeks. Is that considered commuting or is that going to be considered a business expense?
I believe that's going to be your business expense because you are traveling away for a short-term job. It's not something permanent.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, I think that's all the questions right now, Vanessa.
Okay, awesome. I love it. All right, so also going to go dive into supplies and equipment. We are talking anything as far as your paper clip to your pens, your ink, your paper, your rulers, any tape dispensers, things like that. Laptop printers and your phones, those are going to be more so bigger ticket items, so they could fall under depreciation expenses. And the only thing about a computer is it was deemed not a business deduction use item a couple years ago. So just kind of need to report it in a way that you're not saying computer and here's my receipt for that computer in order to use it as a deduction. Because obviously a lot of us use our computers to do our work on. So it just like the next line, use section 179 for your large purchases in 1 year. And then business only use is going to be key on these things. As far as what you're using for business, we want it to be 100% business use to do that deduction on.
So another thing, so I would also fall under here because we do have a lot of artists and craftsmen. So like for me, if I buy beads and different things to make my products, paint, whatever it is, that's also part of this supplies
It is
deduction.
also part of the supplies deduction. So something I can branch out on as far as that, a good point, Lynn, is if you are most, I think a lot of us are handmade artists. So there are some that are retail that fall under Schedule C where they have to keep inventory. So if you're buying inventory to resell, yes, you're a business owner and a fully functional business. You just want to start your Schedule C in a way that you are able to do your business start and your business in retail inventory or inventory, just to use that word. So yes, any of your beads, the trinkets that you have to use to do jewelry, all of that stuff is going to fall under your supplies and equipment needed to perform your business.
Okay. Mickey had a question. What are the definitions for depreciated and expensed? Is that something that
Say that one more time.
Mickey wants to know what are the definitions for depreciated and expensed?
So depreciation is going to fall under, you're going to depreciate that out until you get your full value of that deduction. So if you're buying, we mentioned a shed earlier, if you're paid $20,000 for that shed to conduct a business from, it's going to be your supplies, but it's a big ticket item that you want to start it under the depreciation section 179 to depreciate it out and not take $20,000 and then squash out all of your profits for that year. So you want to take a little bit of a deduction every year. Maybe depreciated or expensed. Trying to figure out a way. The expense, I think, is going to be more so of, it is your expense to your business, but tokening it to where it's going to be on your 179 or an automatic full value deduction. Let me know if I need to figure out more on that.
Okay. Yeah, so Jennifer, I hope that she answered your question. I know like depreciation is huge for my husband's business because he has a landscape and lawn care business, so when he buys a mower, the cost of that mower is depreciated out, what, Vanessa, probably 5 years or something, so that we're getting a little bit of that depreciation benefit for those 5 years. It's actually my husband's excuse for having to buy new stuff when he's depreciated all his toys out. So
Exactly. Yep.
yeah.
They say it's for the business,
So Jennifer says that she doesn't really understand how you figure out depreciating. And that's something that your accountant will help you with,
Absolutely.
right, Vanessa?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something you want to talk to your tax pro about, just to know what they recommend on starting it as a depreciable item or a dollar for dollar item.
Thank you. I know that other questions are coming in like crazy, but I want to make sure Vanessa gets through her presentation. So what I will do is share these questions with her, afterwards, or I'll get with you and say, do you still have any pending questions? And then you can let me know. So we'll try to answer as much as we can, but we're getting a lot of questions come through in this short amount of time that we have.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on into meals and travel. So 50% of business meals are deductible with documentation. And when it comes to business meals, this is going to be, so you are out in the field marketing yourself, marketing your business, or at an event of the business, a show, if you will, a powwow. If you are consuming meals during that time, 50% of that is deductible. So, you spend $150 over the weekend, 50% of that is deductible. However, you're going to report all of that to your CPA or tax pro to be able to figure all of that in. Your travel is going to be considered with your airfare, your hotel, the meals, of course, while you're traveling, and then the transportation. Any taxis that you have to do while you're there, rental cars, your own car, obviously. Just make sure that you're not putting in the personal and the vacation portion because that's not deductible. You're going to want to keep your log. Again, this can be very simple of who, what, when, where, and why. This is just going to be your record purposes. It's not everything that you're gonna have to go tell your tax pro about. It's just your records as far as I went to this national powwow for this purpose to show my art and on these dates. Probably one that is most missed is going to be, as far as deductions, is your labor expenses that you may not know. Sometimes when you're popping up for a show, you can't always do it by yourself. So there may be times where you have to hire someone to help you. So 1099 contractors, if this happens to pertain to you, you're going to issue a 1099 NEC for $600 or more in payments that you paid to that person or that company. Employee wages, you'll deduct their wages, any benefits, and payroll taxes. Most of the time, Schedule C folks are not going to have those employee wages. Those are going to be more so your LLC folks that are in a little bit of a different conversation in business owners and business taxes. You want to use payroll services for compliance, and then also keeping detailed records and contracts should you have to utilize hiring someone for contract labor. Marketing and insurance fees. So this is going to lean towards any websites that you have. I know there's so many social media platforms out there that we can utilize free. However, if you're running a business page from social media, a portion of your cellular phone bill can be deductible for a marketing fee or advertising fee. Branding materials are also deductible. That's going to be your business cards, business swag, pins, things like that. Your business insurance and your professional liability insurance, those are going to be fees associated with a Schedule C on what you can claim. Also, your bank fees and your credit card interest on business accounts are applicable expenses for a Schedule C folks. Advanced and overlooked deductions. So educational classes that we might take in order to further our expertise in the business that we do. Industry specific courses, seminars, books. Obviously, if you were to have paid to watch our webinar today, it would be a fully 100% business deduction. Depreciation of large assets over time. And then startup costs. If you're in your first year of business, it's going to take a lot of up to $5,000 for your first year as a deduction. A lot of Schedule C folks may fall into the red. That's the term we use in accounting in their first year of doing their business. Also looking at your subscriptions, your memberships, and your digital tools. Amazon, if you use Amazon Prime, it's a very overlooked membership as far as that.
I never thought of it, Vanessa.
You never have thought of your
I have not. Amazon Prime. Yes, I have never taken that deduction. I think of things like, oh, my Canva Pro,
absolutely.
You use
Yes.
Adobe, the
Yes.
clouds, like that kind of stuff, but I never thought about Amazon.
Well, darn, we need to dig deeper. So, absolutely, those things that we think we're just utilizing because we can get it quicker or we know that it's there, they're actually business expenses. So, a definite good example of an overlooked deduction. Okay, and then simple ways to track your business expenses. Use a dedicated business account. So may consider opening a separate checking account just for your business income and expenses. So when it comes down to, okay, end of year, we need to figure out everything that we did for this year to take into your tax pro, or even if you prepare yourself, get those things ready. So it just makes it a little bit easier to see what's business related, and it helps at tax time. Just if you're using one card or one account to do your business transactions from. You're going to want to keep all of your receipts, paper or digital. I like both. Sometimes I like to see it in paper, and sometimes the digital is easier for me to kind of look on there and tally it up, if you will. Use your mileage log for your vehicle use. Small notebook in your car. There's also a free app on your phone that you can utilize to keep those details and everything. Taking for me, I use my phone, take a picture of my odometer. So very simple. Taking a picture of my starting odometer, and then when I end my task, my ending, and then I know from A to B, this was my mileage, in a sense. Your phone calendar, or even going old school as a paper calendar, writing things down will help you. Business notebook, is going to be a really nice way to utilize that. Reviewing monthly, and then also using free or low cost tools. So, just going to kind of
Yeah,
go.
some of the things that because I have to tell you, Vanessa, I know you probably realize this about me when I come in. Okay, I'm not the most organized person. And I know staying organized throughout the year,
Yeah.
that's what we should do. But I'm going to admit, I'm 4 days from going to your office, and I'm
Kinda,
like, I've got to pull all this stuff together.
yeah.
One of the things I do is I do take uh, photos of my receipts. I actually use like a cam scanner app.
Okay. Nice.
I keep a Excel sheet. So sometimes I will go in there, put it in there. I can even attach a picture of the receipt because I am not someone who can keep a bunch of paper around.
Right.
Uh, but the other thing I do is I have kind of my certain vendors that I purchase from, and
Mhm.
I use so Amazon. So at the end of the year, I can go through all my Amazon purchases for the year and just verify, okay, do I have this in my expense sheet?
Yeah.
uh, I'll go through my PayPal account. Okay, what purchases did I make through PayPal? Are all of those business expenses on my sheet? So that's
Yeah.
just, a couple of things that I do because I'm not going to use QuickBooks. I, you
Yeah.
know, I just have to keep it simple.
Absolutely. We're in business to make a profit. So, the free and low cost tools that we can utilize better for us and our, bottom dollar, if you will. So,
We
yeah,
did
simple.
have a couple of other questions come through. I was going to let you finish this slide out. Was there anything else?
No, also, mileage that you may forget about is delivering to the post office. So if you're someone who mails things out, that post office delivery, even though may leave your home, you're going to the post office. You had to leave in order to get to the post office. So don't forget that, sometimes it's a substantial travel for that.
Hey, for those of us that live out in the country, yes.
Exactly.
When you're trekking 20 minutes to the post office,
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
be a lot of mileage.
Yeah.
So Arla had a question. Let me see if I can make this sound right. So beading as a material culture art practice can require traditional research and trips to a tribe or going to different cultural events. Can that follow under as a deduction?
Absolutely. Absolute business expense. It's something that you wouldn't do in your day-to-day practice. So it's something out of the ordinary, if you would maybe refer to it that way. If it's not something normalcy, something you're doing, in addition to, is a good way to track your mind on, is this a business expense? Do I need to keep track of it?
Okay, great. And then Ed asked, Amazon allows people living on reservation to go tax-free for items delivered to a reservation. Does this impact goods purchased for a business when itemizing for the IRS?
Yes, I actually have that detail in my Amazon Prime. So, there's been a few books that I've had, and I am in a reservation as well. So, use that feature, go tax free, if you can on that Amazon Prime. And that's probably something that we can, share, Lynn, about, the steps on getting tax exempted in your Amazon Prime or anything else that would be able to be offered for that.
I had no idea.
Walmart is, there's a way to do tax exempt for being Native American through your CDIB card, and we could probably get those steps for them as well.
Okay. Oh, you've given me a couple things that I'm like,
Good
that we need to
question. Yeah.
add about this year when we do my taxes. Okay. I think that's all the questions for right now.
All right. I'm going to move in to our next slide. So 1099-K is a tax form that is reporting for online sellers. So if you are using a third-party provider to take payment for your goods or services performed, they're probably going to send you that 1099-K, or you may have seen one in years past of your business. So when you're filing in 2026 for tax year 2025, it's going to revert back to the old law, if you will, $20,000 in gross payments and having more than 200 transactions per third party that you use. This could be Square, this could be PayPal, Cash App even. I know there's several more out there that are Venmo is the thing. So as long as you are doing $20,000 in gross payments and more than 200 transactions, they're going to send you that 1099-K that you'll use to present to your tax pro on your Schedule C. So just make a note, if you did more than 20,000 in sales and you did more than 200 transactions, you're going to be looking for that 1099-K.
Because before, like they were like for Etsy, because I know we have a lot of Etsy sellers.
Okay, yeah.
Because before they were going to change it to if you made anything over 600, right?
Correct. It was going to go as far as what a 1099 issuance would have been. They stopped it. They didn't ever put that into the tax law for that. They talked about it. They passed it, but they didn't adhere to it. So I don't think anybody ever,
Actually, yeah. I know I personally have, ever since I started my Etsy store, I've always claimed it, even though.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to also share I wanted to share Lynn, I'm gonna stop real quick and pull up my other gig sheet. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, please do.
Okay.
And Seth, I assume those steps that you were referring to, I'm sorry I had to like walk away from the computer a second because I had to shut the dog door. You may just clarify. Oh, for Amazon? Okay. And if we have time, maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, Vanessa.
The steps on getting tax exempt on Amazon.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If we have time.
Yeah.
And if not, then we can, maybe that's something I could add to send out to everybody when I send all the everything else in a follow-up.
So this is a gig sheet that we use at the company that I perform taxes for. It's a really simple way to track your business expenses. And this is something I think she's going to share with everybody. Just because it's branded doesn't mean you can't use it. So it's a very, very nice, simple one sheet way to kind of go through your records and then put it on one sheet to where you're kind of organized on things. So one thing that I didn't touch base with on your on the slides that we used was cell phone use. So we may have one cell phone that we do personal on, and then we do business. The way that we break it down for what is business use is take your entire cell phone bill for the year, and then what percent of that phone use is used for your business. So are you using, 85% of the time you're talking about your business, you're posting your business, you're online with your business. So you're going to take that percentage of it and then use the dollar amount that is for an expense there. Also platform fees. If you are paying to have to, if you're paying a third party, for instance, Etsy, do they charge you a percent to maybe cash out your funds or put it into your bank account? Those are actually expenses for your Schedule C that we may overlook and, not realize that we're able to take it as a deduction. We talked about supplies, things like that. This is your
So
home.
Vanessa, this form right here, because I know like when Clint and I come in to you at the
Yeah.
end of tax, I have just some categories and I'm like, we spent this in marketing, we spent this in this area.
Mhm.
Because really, and I guess I'm just letting people know that, maybe you haven't filed your taxes before.
Mhm.
Um, you're not bringing in all of those receipts and everything to your tax preparer. Really, you want us to come in with something like this.
Yes, as a tax pro that is just doing taxes. I don't do bookkeeping in my day-to-day business. But you may be seeing someone who does the bookkeeping part. So if you're seeing someone that does the bookkeeping part, they may want your receipts. But for me, in my experience, we just need to know those totals. We need to know what you paid for, how you kept track of them. So this is just the tally, the annual tally, if you would, on what you've done for the entire year.
Great. I love this. You're gonna see me hand this to you this year.
I love it. I love it. So this is just talking more about breaking down the home use of your business. So it gives you all the details on what you're going to need in order to fill out the worksheet that is the tax return worksheet on that part. There's your mileage that you can, know. We're going to want to know your entire mileage of the year. And then we want to know what part of that is business and then what part of that was just commuting mileage. So your tax pro may ask you mileage and then also go into your actual. But whichever one, whether it's actual or mileage, the standard mileage rate is going to be the one that's more beneficial to you. So we may talk about it. We may ask you not to keep the receipts if you're going to have a huge mileage deduction. I've seen some folks come in with 2,500 miles for the entire year, making X amount of dollars to 25,000 miles. And then I have those tow trucks drivers that are CDL folks that have insane amount of mileage. So it just depends on what it is that you're doing in your day-to-day business. So this is going to be a cool little worksheet that we can share with you on that part.
So we do have 20 minutes left. Vanessa, do you care to go through the Amazon steps for getting that? Sorry, my mind just went blank for the word that. Yes, thank you.
You're fine. Yep. Let me get that information ready for us. That was such a good question. We should have incorporated that.
And Lydia, I see I don't know if that's a question or a statement, so you may have to elaborate a little bit. And Jennifer, yes, when I send you an email, it'll come directly from me. So it'll have my phone number and you'll have the website URL for our organization, as well as our Facebook link and all of that. Okay, so Lydia's asking, do you have any suggestions for keeping cost of goods sold and inventory records?
So that kind of would, where are you buying your cost of goods? So when I'm talking about my business, I have a jewelry business. However, it's multi-level marketing, what I'm associated with. So I buy my, that word just slipped from me. I buy my, from my warehouse to come into my, I don't have a big storefront. I have a shed outside on my yard. So that's my business. And, so I buy from the warehouse, it's shipped to me, and then I store it in my shed. So I shop from an app. So if you're shopping for your cost of goods on the app, I get a total, at the end of the year that I'm able to say, okay, I purchased X amount from the company. That's going to be my cost of goods. And then my inventory, it will tell me the inventory that I have as well. So for something simple, or do you have an app? Are you shopping from an app? And then are you logging it? So logging it could be as simple as a notebook, even things like that. And then I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to have, it's going to have the steps on the Amazon travel tax exempt. And then maybe we can clip that. Obviously, it's going to be recorded for you as well. So you'll be able to see that on there as well. It was super simple. When I first heard about it, I thought, oh, well, that's going to save me a little bit. It doesn't seem like it adds up, but it did. So Amazon offers that tax exemption program for Native American individuals and tribes on eligible purchases, subject to specific state and local laws. To utilize this, you must enroll in the Amazon Tax Exemption Program, ATEP, and provide valid documentation. I literally uploaded my tribal ID, and then almost the next day I was utilizing that tax exemption. So it's super simple as far as, you know, from my phone. The eligibility for that tax exemption generally requires documentation such as your tribal ID or a state compliant exemption certificate. The name and address on the document should match your Amazon account. So I know some folks may be utilizing a professional account on Amazon. Mine is just from my name, and then I branded it with my business for the email part. So kind of
And this
coincides.
means I need to go update my tribal ID, which has a very old address on it.
There you go. So the name and address on the document should match the Amazon account. For some exemptions, the delivery address may need to be on a reserve or First Nations lands. Documents must be dated, signed, and include a description of the items if applicable. And the enrollment, super simple. It's through the ATEP, typically within your Amazon business account, and you can navigate it to business settings, select the tax exemption and licenses, and then add the tax exemption. So you know, it's all going to come into your Prime if you're already, I say Prime, but your Amazon account that you're paying for already for that quick shipping. You can navigate to business settings, select the tax and exemption and licenses, and then the add the tax exemption. Quick Wizard to manually upload those documents. You know, it's as quick as taking a photo of it and it uploads. For processing those exemptions faster, you will need to provide information, upload details, and agree to all the terms. Some important considerations, ATEP applies automatically to items sold by Amazon, its affiliates, and then participating third-party sellers. For items from non-participating sellers, you may need to contact the seller directly for a refund. The item eligibility depends on the jurisdiction-specific tax laws, and you can remove the exemption from specific items at checkout. So if you think it's an item that shouldn't be there, obviously you can say don't do it, and it's going to add your tax. Refunds for past eligible purchases before enrollment can be requested through Amazon customer service within 180 days of the order. So those of you that didn't know about it, you have 180 days prior of those orders that you can get a refund on any of the tax that you paid on it, should you become eligible and get this exemption done.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome, Vanessa.
absolutely. Really great question. A lot of folks don't know about it. I learned about it not very long ago through Facebook feed, you know.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. We did have another question come through. Can you share some general guidelines for choosing between filing using a standard deduction versus filing for deductions related to business expenses?
Okay, so that question is gonna be two separate things. We do our personal income taxes and we do qualify for a standard deduction or an itemized deduction. Anything that we're doing in the business, we are technically itemizing things out to take a deduction. So it's two different things. You take a standard or an itemization deduction on your tax return, which is gonna include your 1040 and your Schedule C. So you pick there, whichever one's more beneficial to you. But when it comes to the business part, you are technically itemizing out all of your details on what you can claim as those deductions.
And we actually had another, this is actually a very good question. So Suzanne received a grant to use for qualifying items in her business. She purchased the items and was monetarily reimbursed for those. Is that grant taxable? And is the earned or non-earned income? So also is a grant that does not specify eligible purchases earned income taxable?
Okay, so when it comes to a grant, none of it is earned income because it is a grant. However, there are plenty of taxable grants that you will put on your personal income tax as other income. So you won't necessarily you won't always get a form that's going to say 1099 blank. It's usually going to be a 1099 miscellaneous and it will say taxable grant. So you will report it always on your personal tax return. And it does add to your income. So hopefully the income and the expenses will kind of flatten it out. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I think the takeaway that we hope people get from this is, it's filing taxes can be very beneficial to you. My husband and I always have for our business, and I just get so many deductions, that because I have a lot of business expenses. Just being a maker, selling on Etsy, I have a lot of business expenses. And so for those of you who, are going out and making things and selling them, whether it's, craft type stuff or doing anything, it can actually benefit you to file that Schedule C and get really dig into the deductions. And I know it's kind of hard to stay organized and keep track of all those business expenses. I admitted how I do it. But I'm always trying to improve myself. And that sheet that Vanessa gave me will definitely be a huge help, or is sharing with all of us. So Arla is asking, kind of as a follow-up to that grants question, would that also hold true for stipends?
So stipends and grants are two different things. Almost 99.9% a stipend is never going to be taxable. So it kind of just depends on the company that you're getting it from on how they chose to distribute it to you. They may do it as a way that they get their write-off or do it as a way to where they have to show that those stipends are getting out. But 99.9% stipends are not going to be taxable or reported as earned income for a credit, if you would.
Oh, it's through, yeah. So she's getting some stipends through the Institute of American Indian Arts.
Okay. So stipends should not be taxable. Are you getting a 1099? Maybe she doesn't know that yet. But it would just go into, if they're labeling it a stipend, it should not be taxable. Don't know yet. Okay. Yeah. So, you'll know in about 6 weeks. Oh. Hopefully, if they're saying it's a stipend, they put it on to where it's not taxable to you. So
Great. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much. Oh, another question.
Yeah.
A question that's sort of related. My college graduate son is unable to find employment, so he is a gig worker as a filmmaker. He doesn't have a business, but is working as a gig worker. Would he be able to expense out his cost to do his gig work? And would that require an employer identification number?
Okay, that's a great question. So Schedule C folks, they're not required to have an EIN. The EIN is basically for record keeping. If you want to go to the bank and you want to do business, they want to see that EIN number for reporting rather than your social security number, because you're going to just establish a line of credit through your business and not so much your personal. So yeah, he's a gig worker. He's able to expense out those costs associated with what he's doing, and wouldn't require an EIN. He can work by his social. So you want to know net profit, you would file that self-employment tax. So if he's making 600, but he spent 500 in his supplies, he's not going to have a tax liability to have to report. So working off his, making free money, if you would.
Okay. Well, I know we are pretty much at the hour. Oh, it just isn't going to stop, but that's okay.
Okay.
We do still technically have 4 minutes left.
Okay.
So if your business is solely on the reservation, do you have to file taxes?
So federally, yes. Now, when it comes to state, it could be different because every state is different when it comes to exempt tribal income. I'm in Oklahoma, so we do have an exemption and it's exempt tribal income. We have to conduct our work on not a reservation, restricted or land in trust. So again, I guess it would just go by which reservation you're on and which state you are in. So your tax pro should be able to go over all of that with you. I do taxes in all the states, but I can't name off one for one which one is which on what their tax law is. But it's always federally, but the states are subject to each state.
We all have to pay that federal income tax, don't we?
They want it. Uncle Sam wants their cut. Which is why it's so important to track your deductions, because you may be making $50,000, and that's a scary number to think, oh my gosh, I'm going to owe half of that on taxes. Take your eligible deduction, get that tax liability down to where you're not paying all of the tax amount on those earnings, which is a nice thing about being a sole proprietor or independent contractor. You have these options to take those deductions and pay less tax on the money that you make for your business.
Yeah, and it's not just those deductions through things like supplies, but you get an automatic percentage for being self-employed, right?
You get a half off your self-employment tax. So if you have $1,500 in self-employment tax, you get a deduction on your 1040 that's half of that. So it's automatically being in half. There's a qualified business income deduction that's been out there since 2018, and it's 20% of what you're making on your business. So there's tons of deductions for business owners that you may not know about. That if you find you a good tax pro, they're going to dig deep for you and get all those deductions. So maybe when you're doing your research, find somebody who does a Schedule C on their own taxes or has major experience in it.
Great. Okay, if anyone has any further questions, I would ask that you email them to me and I can pass them on to Vanessa, because Vanessa's got to get back to her job. But we thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing all this information with us, and thank everyone who was able to attend. And as soon as this webinar recording processes and Vanessa gets me that expense tracking sheet, I will get it emailed out to everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks for joining, everyone.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye, Vanessa.